Now, get ready to talk hockey. Streaming from the Oilers Live Studio. Subscribe or follow today.
Hey, it's Michael here with another edition of Oilers Live Tuesday, the flagship podcast of the Heavy Hockey Network. I've got as my guests tonight, Dash in the Park and Mr. Mike Dirsa, going to join me for a little all-star break, Oilers all-star break. The rest of the league still playing, not all of them, but some of them are. And we'll talk a little bit of Oilers hockey, what things look like, what's going to happen as we get out of the all-star break and all that fun stuff. Welcome to the show, guys. How you doing?
Outstanding, Michael.
Good. Dash, a little quiet for.
Hey, wow, no, good. Just I just pay all due respect to Dirsa and let him speak first whenever I can. You know me.
Right on. Yeah, good to have you guys. When's the last time it was just the three of us doing a show?
3 mics on mics. Yeah. I don't know.
Feels like
2 of them are Mike D's, and one of those Mike D's is awesome. And the other one's Dirsa.
It's been a while, guys. It has been a very long time.
Yeah, it has been months. Yeah, months and months.
And lots has happened. I think we've all been on a show together, but usually with some of the other guys. We used to do this quite often. We just haven't done it for a while. And what better time than when the Oilers are 7-1-2 in their last 10? Pretty exciting time. You guys, so I asked this. I had Sean on last week. He's a writer for the Hockey Writers. I try to get his name correctly, but I even asked him how to say it. He said, don't worry about it. So
there's really no use butchering it more than you already have.
Yeah. So, but I did ask Sean, what his thoughts were, and I'll get your opinion because I keep looking at this and I think, how excited should we be? I mean, the schedule of late, like after that LA game, right, has been maybe you add in Seattle and Vegas, but outside of Seattle and Vegas, it's been the bottom of the barrel of NHL teams. 7-1-2 can be a little bit misleading, but at the same time, I mean, this is a team that had themselves in a wild card spot in arguably one of the toughest schedules in the league at the first half of the season. Who are the real Oilers, guys? Like, are they the 7-1-2 Oilers or the sort of NHL 500 Oilers? Dirsa?
Yeah, I mean, you have to win the games that you're presented with, right? And I think we were victimized by a little bit of a difficult schedule to start out, and it's kind of balancing itself out. So I think you're starting to see kind of the team that we thought we were getting in the summer. I mean, Jack Campbell's rounding into form, and we're relatively healthy right now, except for maybe a little bit of a nagging injury with Yamamoto there. But no, I think this is the real deal. And they can extend this a little bit more with, Detroit and Philadelphia coming out of the break and climb the ladder a little bit. And just like we all thought, leading the Pacific, right, Dash?
That's where I had them.
I mean, your thoughts, Dash. I mean, you didn't have this team obviously at the top of the Pacific, and I don't know that any of us did. Maybe we hoped they'd be there, but is this what is this team? Is this Pacific Division leading Oilers squad, or is it wild card squad? I don't think we know. I mean, right now, you look at 7-1-2. I mean, it's pretty compelling that they're a team that can win some games, but they're mostly bottom feeders in there, with the exception of 2 teams. Your thoughts, real Oilers? Which ones are they?
ultimately, I think it's probably somewhere in between. That's tough to answer, I think. I don't love the narrative about, we had an easy schedule and a hard schedule. Like the NHL is really hard league. There's a ton of parity. Arizona can beat Toronto on any given night. Look at Toronto the other night, like whopping Washington and then losing to Ottawa. You never know. And ultimately, you're supposed to, like Dirsa said, win the games that you're supposed to win, and we're doing that. Just because they've all been presented to us lately isn't our fault. I don't know if you heard the Got Your Back podcast recently. There, the last one that Struddy and Rashog did. They said that straight off the pipes, their favorite podcast. Go check that out. I'm not lying, but Rashog also said that the Oilers and the Kraken had the two hardest schedules so far up to this point in the NHL. So they played the least bottom 10 teams. So it's got to balance out, and it is. But at that same breath, the last time I did a show with you, Michael, was 2 weeks ago. We jokingly in between here have said that you should go back and clip it because you and I sound like geniuses. But there's a 2-minute stretch in that show where you and I basically predicted exactly this, that the team from that point, we were there on a Seattle post game. We lost that night. It was upsetting. People were down, and you and I said, just wait. There's going to be a point in time where the team goes and wins 15 out of 20, and they've won 1-2 since. Like, times that by 2. That's exactly 15 and 20, or 15 out of 20. So we also said once Campbell settles in, that we'll have a more consistent team. We also said that once the goaltending's more consistent, the defense will look a little bit better. And all of those things have happened. So a little bit of good luck, a little bit of good schedule. I think that's fair to say that the schedule has something to do with it. But also, that was the tipping point. What did we before then? Before the LA game, we were in 2 fights all year, and then all of a sudden we've been in 6 fights in the 8 games since. I think there's something to the fact that Desharnais's been here. I think there's something to the fact that Kane's been back. I think there's something to the fact that the team plays an inch taller when they're around. And I think that all contributes to the success as of late. And, you guys in the prediction show said the Oilers would finish the division first. I said that they would finish the division second. And I think they're right in there. They're right in there.
Yeah, I mean, right now it looks very possible, right? That the Oilers could finish as the division leaders. Certainly, from a points percentage standpoint, they're sitting in second in the Pacific. They've had a good stretch. To answer my question, I guess that posed to you guys. I mean, the way I look at it is this team's very much somewhere in the middle. But we were sitting there, 40 games in, and a lot of people were, jumping off the Oilers bandwagon and throwing in the towel. And I think we even saw a Fire Woodcroft tweet at some point. And of course, Ken Holland articles, and Ken Holland is the devil and a lot of different things. But at the end of the day, right? I mean, when with the schedule they had, and you're right, there's some parity in the league, but at the end of like if a team is good over time, they'll win more than they lose versus those bottom half teams. I think the Oilers did well to maintain their position as a playoff team in a tough schedule. And now that the schedule is lightening up for them, these are wins at the beginning of the season as much as they are wins in the middle of the season or at the end of the season. And they're getting them at the right time. They're going 7-1-2. You look at Seattle. How many did they win in a row recently? 7 or 8 in a row, was it? Or maybe even more than that. And the NHL Network had them number 1 overall in a power ranking. They're 6-3-1 now in their last 10, and the Oilers beat them. I thought handily. I thought they did quite well against them. So, I think this team is somewhere in the middle. It's too early for us to be thinking conference finals again. I think but having Kane back in the lineup, man, what a difference, right? Like, just the energy, I think, of the team, a lot of different things.
That's a key catalyst for sure.
Yeah, he's a catalyst. And so when you look at this team, I mean, you brought this up, Dash. We'll start with you on this. And you said it. They've had a lot more fights. What are a couple of the things that you've noticed over the past, 10 games, which has really been kind of the turnaround for the team, that weren't there before? Like what, outside of the fights, obviously that's an obvious one, but anything that you notice about this team, maybe that Woodcroft has been saying in the back room, or, the team's decided they've got to change, or anything like that, any little bits and pieces that you might have noticed?
Who the flub knows what Woodcroft's saying in the back room? I wish I knew. You know what? I think that there was probably a tipping point. You know what I think of? Was it last season or the season before, you guys, when everybody, before the Rangers got Reeves, and everybody said that they were soft because one of their players got hit and hurt? You remember that? And then the next game they came out and like the entire line dropped the mitts, including Stone.
Yep.
Or Strome, sorry.
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of criticism going around that nobody defended McDavid when Mackenzie Nygaard poked his leg out. And, I think the noise probably caused a little bit of that same effect, where they can't really, it's not the right time to get retribution in a tie game in the third period against your arch rival with the division on the line. That's the last time Nurse can come in and take a stupid penalty. So I think like from that game on was a tipping point. All of a sudden the very next game in LA, they get in 3 fights. Yeah. I don't know. I just think there's that tipping point there caused the team to galvanize. Anybody's been to the bar with their buddies and gotten in some scraps or played any type of sport where you had to go through adversity and then come out the other side together, you're galvanized. And I just think the team is really starting to galvanize. And I think the Kane return, and Desharnais is getting a lot of credit, but maybe he's not getting enough credit, because I really do. You see them, look what McDavid was doing with Maroon. Like, they're all playing an inch taller.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, 100%. I love that, right? I mean, you don't see, there's not a lot of superstars that you see that fight back like that. It was great to see. Dirsa, your thoughts?
I noticed a kind of a switch being turned on, and I'd love to be a fly on the wall in what was said in the players only meeting, because that's, to me, where actually it really changed. And I believe that was the game. It was before they played the New York Islanders. And their defensive structure changed. Nurse decided he wanted to be an NHL, top pairing guy again. And I just think that as a whole, like, team defense picked up the physicality.
Not to cut you off, Dirce, but that's the exact day that we did that podcast, Michael and I. The post game after the Kraken, and the next game was up against the Islanders.
Yeah.
I think we agree on the tipping point for sure.
I think it was either that night or the morning after they had their players only meeting. And, that's, to me, that's where the switch was turned on. They haven't won every game since then. And, they went into LA and lost. But, yeah, the 3 guys stepped up for each other. Was it Nurse, Costin, and Puljujarvi that got into it that night? And then when Kane got back, I don't think it's all Evander, but everybody else, it's pack mentality. Everybody's got their back, and I don't think Kane is the guy that's doing that, but just with him in the lineup, everybody else seems to play like they're 6 inches taller than they are. And, now we're not all of a sudden talking about being pushed around, and you add this big behemoth Chara light kind of on the back end there. And all of a sudden, do we really need that nasty shutdown D? Maybe, but we seem to have found one, so
must have more.
Yeah. I think there's been a bit of a switch that's been turned on, and I like our group right now. And I'm not in a position where I think right now we got to do something right now. I think I want to let this breathe a little bit more and evaluate a bit more now that Kane's back in and Desharnais in here, and really see what we have in the next, I think it's about 2 weeks to the deadline.
Yeah.
Take a little bit more time and see what we've got here.
Yeah, you know what, Dirsa, you bring up a good point. I mean, that's something that just 2 weeks ago, as Dash was saying. I mean, we didn't.
Yeah, let me just add something to that.
Luxury. Yeah,
let me add something to that before you jump in, Michael, because I want to validate what you guys are both about to say. I'm just looking at the schedule, and the game against Calgary, when the knee happened, was when the criticism started. The very next game was against Seattle, and that's when we put up a touchdown that game. But you'll also remember that was the game. That's when the tipping point was for the fighting. There was 2 fights the entire season before that. And both of them were Puljujärvi, and one of them he didn't even drop the gloves. And then that game, Dylan Holloway fought Vince Dunn. And then Kostin tried to fight Tanev and Alexiak at the same time, and there was that little double minor mishap. And right from there, that was where I think the toughness started to galvanize. Then they lost 2 in a row. That was heading into and then the second of the 2 in a row was the Seattle beating them again, and then the team meeting. So that's when it all happened.
I got to take a second and acknowledge the shit-eating grin on Kostin's face, skating to the penalty box, and Nurse and Kane greeting him with shit-eating grins, and Holloway in that game you talked about after he got into it, and he kind of looked like, that was kind of fun, and he skated to the penalty box.
Yeah, they're like the Lost Boys.
Yeah.
All those things are great. I think that definitely the team toughness, huge, right, for this team. Some stranger brought up Hyman fighting Dirsa.
Yeah,
right. Like, what a great, and then who better than to have a fight like that than Hyman, where he, gives the smile and the, I'll go, sort of thing, and performs well. I mean, who knew, right? Who knew that Hyman could chuck him and do all right? So evenly.
What can't Hyman do?
Yeah, I mean the guy. Yeah, he's a spark plug for this team, right? He keeps going. The one thing I noticed that hasn't been said, and we see this, I think it's important to see it against teams like Anaheim, like San Jose, like Vancouver. The Chicago game, which is
Vancouver.
2-3 weeks ago, maybe a little bit longer now, into December, this team would come out with a 7-3 type of showing that they had against Chicago, and they'd play that first 20 minutes, and then they'd pack it in. But they'd pack it in, maybe 15 minutes of game time, but just long enough to let the other team in it, lose momentum, and then it was done. I mean, how many, how often did we hear DeBrusque or Jack Michaels talk about losing 2-goal leads, right, at home? I mean, it was just a broken record over and over and over again. And I think we finally, I think something switched with the team. Maybe it was the team meeting. Who knows what it was? Maybe it was just getting tired of losing leads. But it's good to see this team go out there with like this killer mentality. A little bit of what was that, Mortal Kombat finish him type of moves, right? And just, what I love that they put. We'll talk about the Berlin Wall but I love that they put him in, and I don't care what Chicago thinks. I want this team to, I want the league to be on notice that this team's got the offensive firepower to destroy just about anybody, right? And they're not afraid to back it up either. If guys want to go, they want to go. There's Costin there. There's Desharnais. There's Kane, who should be maybe ready to chuck a few after the All-Star break. We'll see. That's the guys are there. They're playing for each other, but it's that to me, it's a lot of that killer mentality. And Renegade Man takes us back to where I was going to go, actually, which is he says Bjugstad's now a likely target for the Oilers. They need help on the bottom six. I think the one luxury now that Ken Holland has that maybe he always knew he had, but Oilers fans didn't know he had, was there's some time now. And to your point, Dirsa, the Oilers don't need to rush out today and make a shitty move, right? Lotsberg made a post about panic moves in the Oilers organization over the last, right? And if you haven't read it yet, go heavyhockey.com and check out Ryan Lotsberg's. He did a 2-article series on panic moves by the Oilers. Make you rethink, right? Like this, this ability or this desire for everybody to make a panic trade, right? And I think now, Ken Holland's got some time. Also, teams they won't take advantage of you, I think, in the same way. If you could, if it doesn't look like a take it or leave it situation, right? Which I think the Oilers have been in far too often. I think about Taylor Hall, Jordan Eberle, like those were take it or leave it type of moves where the other GM immediately had the upper hand because, well, everybody knew what the Oilers were doing. And so you took the dregs of what somebody was willing to give you, right? That's my thought on it. What do you guys think about Bjugstad? Let's talk about this. Thoughts on this, and do the Oilers? Maybe the question is, do the Oilers need a lot of help on the bottom six?
Go ahead, Dirsa.
I guess my question is, who do you think doesn't belong there? Who are you pulling out to replace Nick with? For me, I would target a third line center that can win draws and, a veteran guy that's won a cup. That's kind of what I think you need in that bottom six. And if you can get it at an affordable price, that's what I would target. Nick Bjugstad is a player, but it doesn't really do a lot to excite me. That's kind of where I'm at.
How much depends on?
Bjugstad just feels like Draisaitl all over again, doesn't it?
Oh,
a little bit. Big body, probably should have played more physical. Finally starting to at the end of his career because he realizes it's shortening. And sure, he's okay. Honestly. Yeah. If we're not talking about fixing the defense and getting some insurance on the back end, then I don't have a lot of interest in talking about forwards, right? Yeah, like it's such a glaring need for me, and I would love for them to go out and get that D piece. I just don't know what they can do.
Nick Bjugstad to me is just a large bowl of meh salad. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I see where the rumor comes from, right? I mean, he's got an attractive salary cap situation. He can fill in at center. He can play down the lineup a little bit. He is a big guy, but I think to Dash's point, I'm not really thinking bottom six at this point. I'm thinking about shoring up D. And the reality is, like, Dirsa, I love where you went with that, which is, if I'm Ken Holland right now, I want to see what I've got. Right? I mean, you finally have something worth having a look at. I don't think, let's in fairness to Holland, everybody thought Desharnais was playing out of camp until he got injured, right? Like he's it's not like he's some surprise to the organization, right?
As soon as
like
he signed that contract, he signed it at $1 that they could fit him in so that he could be on the big club.
Yeah, so and that's huge, right?
I think there's a bit of wishful thinking with him, in the sense of hoping that he can do it at the NHL level because you just haven't seen it. But I don't think it's a major revelation for them. Like I think they had a fairly good idea that he was going to be, able to be a 6-7 defenseman in the league. I think they knew that. I think it went more seamlessly for him than they would have imagined, and that's great. And I hope he keeps it up.
Yeah. Damn audio. Are you getting the same problems, Dash, on your side?
Yeah, it's cutting a bit or skipping.
All right. Let's hope it's
for
not
me,
this.
Nick Bustad is, if he's on a spice rack, he's flour. You know what I mean? Like, it's great. Another guy like that. If you're going to get somebody that's going to move the needle in the bottom 6, then get somebody that's going to move the needle. Like, if this rumors on Jonathan Taves or anything close to real, then I can get excited about that. But I don't know. Bugstad's just Broussard 2.0.
Be curious. Renegade Man brings up Gavrikov, who we've heard lots of thoughts on this guy. I mean, to me, it's polarizing, right? There's half the folks that would love to see him on the Oilers, and half that don't want him anywhere near our blue line. I didn't. I watched him on their Alberta trip. I didn't get the warm and fuzzies by watching him. I didn't think that he was exceptional by any stretch. He's not a player that I've spent a ton of time watching. I mean, it's the Blue Jackets, so it's not really exciting hockey. You guys, I mean, what's your thought? I mean, he's obviously in the mix. He's a player. I think there's enough insiders that have brought up his name that he's a likely target. I mean, I don't know. I mean, to me, here's a guy that he just doesn't move the needle enough for me. And again, right? Like if I'm Holland, I'm taking some time and checking to see what I have. Right. Certainly Desharnais he's been good so far. It's not been against super tough competition. And he's still playing sheltered minutes for the most part. Over the next little while, you'll get a good feeling for what you really have in him. And then you can decide where in the lineup you need, you really need, obviously, I still think you need defensive help, but where, and then what do you do? What's Gavrikov's salary at? Got to.
I think you got to.
It's 2.8 or something.
Yeah.
I think really, if you're going to renovate your decor, I think you have to look at the a little bit outside of the Pacific Division, because I still think the path to the Cup goes through Colorado, and you have to take a look at their decor and then look at ours, and can you go head to head with that? And I think the answer right now is still no. So if you're gonna make a move, it's got to be major. It can't be just a little deep in the line, 4, 5, 6, 7 defenseman. I think you need somebody to go on your top pair with Nurse and slide CC a little bit further down in the lineup.
Yeah, the problem, and Mike, maybe what I'll get you to do is log out and log back in. Let's see if that helps at all.
Yeah, it's getting.
I'm not sure what it is. I mean, I'm sure everybody could hear what you have to say, but showing your connection is good. Just try it and see if that helps the problem.
It's tough to follow.
If it doesn't help the problem, then it's the last time we use this streaming platform. We'll go back to the to the old one, because that's the second time now.
I was really hoping you're going to say that's the last time we use Dirsa.
Yeah, he's having trouble logging off, so we got there. He managed to hit the quit button. Maybe I'll watch for a while and learn something.
I think the key to Gavrikov is that he's not going to cost you a lot. You don't have to give up much to fit him under the cap, and he's, like you said, you didn't really notice him, or he wasn't really noticeable, Renegade. But like, when was that a bad thing for a defenseman? He's a bit Larson-esque, right? He's a big body. He's mean. It's not a terrible thing to have. I think the key for the Oilers is that they need somebody on defense that they don't want to retain. Like, it's pure rental.
Well, and maybe you're onto something there, Dash. I mean, Gavrikov and Nurse could be a hell of a pair, right? Like, I still contend, like, it drives me nuts, the hate for Nurse. Because the guy is a top D-man in this league. And I think, if you had better defense behind him, I mean, Cody Ceci, let's be honest, nobody thought he was going to be a top pair guy.
Nurse has capably taken on the best pairing and the best line of every one of the Western Conference teams every game, every year for the last 5 years. So what if he makes $1 million too much money? He outplayed his contract for 4 years before that. Yeah. We owe him that.
Yeah, I hate talking about Nurse's contract too. I mean, you can't win that one, right? Like, that's not a conversation you can have. Is Gavrikov better than Cody Ceci?
I think like Gavrikov plays 23 to 25 minutes a night in Chicago.
Yeah, he's playing top right? Line.
So, I mean, sure, you throw him with Nurse, and you've got does he shoot right? No, he's the left-handed shooter too.
He's a lefty, yeah.
But I think he can play both sides from what I remember. I also wouldn't mind seeing Jake McCabe out of Chicago if they're going to dismantle that team. That would be a nice little pickup.
I mean, maybe I'm overthinking like the player, right? And you just need somebody who's CC caliber that can notch guys down the defensive lineup a little bit.
Yeah.
Like Nurse has done well enough with guys that would be second pairing D on any other team in the league.
Barry and CC is now a capable second pairing, and then I don't think you break up Bouchard and Broberg. They've invested so much in that pairing. But then, now you've got a Doharney and a Kulak still around and now that's depth, right? So it's somebody that you can pick up that can play first pairing minutes that doesn't have that high of a price because it's a pure rental.
Yeah.
And you still have to play Artie somewhere else maybe. And
the numbers don't make sense, right? You can't. I mean, whether we want, guys that want a legit, first pairing D-man seemingly forget that we've got to, we're fighting to keep Kane in the lineup, right? With the salary we have,
JP's gonna go.
Yeah, and just a week ago we were wondering, who's out so that Kane could come in, if not for Yamamoto being on LTIR. So, there's challenges with picking anybody up that's, 2.8 might be difficult to do. JP's obviously, is he, now here's the other thing. Is he gone? Right? Is he, is somebody going to pick him up? Do the Oilers have to eat some of that salary? Are they giving him up for nothing? What's going on there? I mean, in my mind,
salary, but you just give up a bigger piece along with it so that the team that's taking him will eat it.
Yeah. And who's that piece, right?
Well, you give them a second that you wouldn't normally have to, so that they take the whole salary.
So, how the difference, a month makes.
It's going to be money in, money out, right? So it's just
how many people had Broberg as a trade potential on this lineup?
Me.
Like, how many times did you see Broberg's name come up as we got our friend Jeff Aid.
Jeff Aid and me. Yeah, both of us. I predicted in the preseason show that Desharnais and Niemelainen would end up higher in the chart than Broberg at the end of the year.
Yeah, well, and Desharnais still might. Niemelainen, he started off strong, but he certainly took a little bit of a dive. Like he just didn't seem to follow up. He didn't keep that. He just didn't seem to keep the physical aspect of his game up to where we expected. And maybe it was a minutes thing. I don't, maybe it was just a utilization and an opportunity thing. Some stranger said, I heard a deal was almost made with St. Louis. That way. I hadn't heard that. Is that recent news?
I heard that's one of the rumors out there. I think the stronger rumor out there is Boston.
Yeah. I mean, there was the rumor Anaheim was looking at him. Boston's a possibility.
I think you bought into Brad Marchand trolling everybody.
Everybody falls for Brad Marchand emojis. Come on.
Yeah. Brad Marchand is always trolling everybody. Yeah.
Robert settled in nice lately. Like he is quietly goes about his business and it's he's playing a pretty quiet game and from a defenseman, just breaking into the league. I think that's great.
Well, yeah, I mean, Dash said it earlier. You don't, if you don't hear about a defenseman and I can't recall seeing a play where I thought Broberg was shit in the past couple of weeks, right? And it's actually kind of nice.
Yeah, he recovers well too. Like if he does kind of get beat, he recovers well and yeah.
The most noticeable defenseman in that stretch to me has been Kulak.
Yeah.
Like he's been the guy that if I had to, say has dropped a couple of steps in how I feel his game is, it's Kulak.
I thought you were going to say he dropped a couple of gloves because that was a turning point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he had to do something, right? Maybe he's feeling the pressure too. And that's good. Everybody's got to contribute in their own way. Yeah. Some stranger said Sarah Volley mentioned it on his pod about the St. Louis JP. Sarah Volley
Let us
generally
know
has
what
the
was
goods.
rumored to come back. I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I'd be maybe Tarasenko. Who knows? Yeah, right.
No.
I got to make a joke about that whole Matt Berlin Chicago disrespect thing. Like, if Chicago was going to take that as a sign of disrespect, or were we supposed to turn off the scoreboard too? Because I would have been more embarrassed by that than putting in a young goalie at the other end.
Yeah, it's more embarrassing. That's an NHL team put up a touchdown on you and that you're behind by 4 in the third period than it is that some kid got his moment in the NHL.
Yeah.
I can see why it would be perceived that way. Like, if you think from the, how many times have you guys sat down with one of your better halves and said, honey, I was thinking about saying this to my boss, and your better half looks back at you and says, well, if you're thinking it, you probably shouldn't say it. Then you probably shouldn't say it. It's a little bit of that, right? Like there's clearly they all thought, well, this might be offensive, right? That's why McDavid and Woodcroft come out and the first things out of their mouths was we meant no disrespect. But the mere fact that it was handled that way is what made it absolutely fine. Absolutely.
And I don't know. I mean,
there was nothing Belichickian about it, right? Where it's like, we're running up the score. I heard people saying we ran up the score. I don't think it had anything to do with that. I think it had something to do with Woodcroft wanting to get Kane off the schneid.
Well, and when Kane scored, it's not like he went for the big, he didn't ride the stick to the bench. He looked upset that he scored.
The pop slide.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or why are you putting Connor and Draisaitl out there with Berlin? Like you're just rubbing it in and like, come on. Like,
did any players actually come out though and say any of that?
No.
I mean, because the players will say it. Guys like Kane and Taze, if it really bugged them, they're not the kind of guys to stay quiet on that.
It's like Strudwick said, they know they suck. They're more offended by that than anything we did.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably.
You don't like it? Stop us.
Yeah, and to me, I 7 goals is a lot.
Top stake and penalties.
But yeah,
So is that.
yeah. I just love the fact that the Oilers kept playing. Like they kept, I'm tired of those games back, a month ago where they quit playing and why watch the last period of a hockey game? I want to see this team go and compete right down to the last minute.
Well,
If they'd scored a dozen, I'd been happy. Yeah.
They let the other teams in too. Like if you take your foot off the gas, right?
Put the league on notice so you're not fucking around anymore. That you're going to score 12 if they
best defense is a good offense.
Yeah. Like 3 goals. Like that could beat half the teams in the league. But it's not going to beat you if you score 7, right? And you know what? We've been getting those types of saves from Skinner and from Campbell, right? Those, must save kind of don't let the 4th goal in. It's not like we've had this, defensive. I guess we've been around the 3 and 2 goal mark for the last 10, but it's not been perfect, right? Like, but they've been making the saves they need to. Campbell's made some highlight reels. Some of the best saves I've seen all year from any goalie.
Sure, glad we didn't put him on waivers like half of Oilers Twitter wanted at the start of the year.
I mean,
this time last year, everybody was hollering for Mike Smith to be sent down to the minors. Look what happened there.
Yeah. We should have done it. No, not. Yeah, it's good. Campbell's found his game.
Mike Smith bus right out of town.
Did you guys watch After Hours?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's it? Oak asks some of the most uncomfortable questions I've ever seen.
Because he's 37% pickled by the time he's asking his first question.
So, hey, you remember when you called yourself pathetic?
Did he at least start the question with, so you're now 6-0 in your last 6 starts? Remember when you said you were pathetic?
It makes me cringe sometimes. But
he's awesome.
And I always wonder, like, is he thinking about it before he says it? Maybe it's that dash. It's that moment where, you're thinking it in your head. Maybe I shouldn't say it. Maybe you shouldn't say it. But you know what? It makes for good TV just because it makes me cringe and makes me laugh. Oh, man. I tell you. Who's the team to beat going into the second half in the Pacific Division?
LA Kings.
You think it's LA?
Yeah.
I honestly think, Mike, they're the ones that, in my opinion, they're the ones that are going to go for the biggest drop. That's my opinion.
They're not going to stay like where they are, but right now I think they're the team that we got to claw and catch and put down and keep them down. And I don't want to face them in the first round again. No,
they're still the same kind of team built for the playoffs that they were last year, right? And the year and any other year, like that's LA Kings hockey.
It's almost like they resurrected the Ducks. Like,
yeah,
Todd McClellan's never been past the second round in his life.
Yeah,
muddy hockey.
Yeah, but it's playoff. It's playoff brand of hockey that'll get you 7 games against the Oilers that were the better team.
7, yeah.
Don't you want my answer, Michael?
Yeah, I'd love to hear your answer. That's what I'm here for.
Who's the team to beat in the Pacific?
Yeah. Oh man, don't say it. You're banging this drum all year. Where's that mute button? Go for it. What do you got? Who's your team?
It's Calgary Flames.
Yeah.
I think Vegas makes the biggest drop.
I think I
think
was
they'll come
thinking
down to
after I
life the
said LA,
most.
Vegas is definitely making.
I think Seattle has the biggest room to drop. I'm not as convinced that they will drop as much as Vegas, but go and look at the goalies' team save percentage in Seattle and look at their PDO and their analytics and look at how high some of the shooting percentages is, the career years. And
so what like after
I
now
think honestly,
seeing
LA
the
is
Flames,
maybe
though,
the right answer, but it's Calgary. That's who we have to beat and stay ahead of, because that's who's right on our freaking heels. And all they have to do is go on a little bit of a run like we are, and they're right at the top of the Pacific too. And Calgary is capable of doing that. You guys don't underestimate.
What on there even excites you on that team? Without
nothing. Sutter's post game. Sutter's post game excites me. It doesn't excite him, but it excites me.
But their defense has not been up to what anybody.
No,
like Stone's
Nygaard hasn't been that good. I would agree. He's maybe not as advertised, but I don't know. They haven't. They're winless with Tanev out of the lineup. Like, that team goes as Tanev goes. Look at the playoffs. He played with half of a shoulder there, and we waxed them.
So you're talking a one-player team.
That's
the team that you're taking. I'm just curious because there's nothing like the Flames are exactly what I thought at the beginning, which I'd said we could go back. Is a whole bunch of guys that had career years last year, playing for Sutter for multiple seasons now, right? So it's starting to wear thin a little bit with two guys that have never played, in fact, and Kadri had a career year last year. Huberdeau, I mean, I think Florida fleeced Calgary somehow. They knew that, like, I get this sense that Florida knew where Huberdeau was headed. And Uyghur, I mean, that guy gives the puck away more than I don't know. I mean, every time I watch the Flames, which is a lot, like he's, Markstrom's got to hate him because he's got more assists on opposition goals than the other team. I don't look at this team as.
What if they gel? What if they galvanize? What if something happens like
I just don't think they're good enough.
What if Campbell's good enough to turn it around and go 6-0 in his last 6, as if Markstrom isn't?
Who are the two players on Calgary, though, that go up against a team like Edmonton?
Kadri, Lindholm, Huberdeau.
Lindholm career year last year. Kadri career,
man.
It's what?
Not every team can have McDavid and Draisaitl, Michael.
No, I know, but that's my point. Is who are those guys on Calgary, right? Like they just I thought that from the start was there's a team that never dealt with any injuries last year, and had a ton of guys with career years under a Sutter coach team that didn't wear thin during the year, but certainly would wear thin now. I mean, early on, Saravelli was talking about how.
Yeah, we've been looking up at them the whole season, bud. We just passed them a week ago,
and we were
looking up at them in a wild card spot. And exactly. I know we haven't been looking up at them the whole season. They only passed us at the Christmas break. That's the only time.
The whole year.
Their problem is they've got Toffoli, Mangiapane, Kadri, Huberdeau, all these guys. Are they all underachieving? I would say they are. And even when they start, playing well, they're not in that, stratosphere of Draisaitl and McDavid and Nuge.
The question I was asked wasn't whether the Flames have McDavid and Draisaitl. And
I just don't
can
think
match up to
McDavid
and Draisaitl. The question is, who is the team to beat in the Pacific?
Yeah,
and
but
it's not the Kings. It's not the Vegas Knights.
Maybe
it's not Seattle.
There's
6 points differentiating first.
Maybe it's Edmonton
sixth.
That's the team to beat.
I think you're asking for about 6 or 7 guys from the Flames to all of a sudden get switched on, and I think that's a big ask.
They're 3 points behind us, dude.
Right.
You're talking like they're the bottom of the barrel. There's 6 points that separate first and sixth in the Pacific. You don't think in 20 games that they can drop 4 points ahead of us and the Flames and the Oilers can be first and second in the Pacific? It can happen in 3 weeks.
I would take probably
That's the team to beat. It's the Flames.
I said the guys to beat in the Pacific might be, in my mind, Seattle. And then depending on, I don't know, if Vegas can turn it around, like this Stone thing, like it's like Tanev to the to the Flames. Stone is out, and but he could be back after the All-Star break. And when he was in the lineup, I mean, they were top in the division, and it wasn't really even close, right? Like they were rolling on all cylinders.
And yet when
seemed unbeatable.
When we went head to head with him, we did fine. Like I think there's a bit of a mirage there. But
I think Vegas with Stone is the team to beat. Seattle's up there, but Seattle's streaky. I think they're the kind of team that has a good regular season in my mind, and then comes back down to earth come playoff time.
They've lost like 8 of their last 10. Like it's a pretty bad stretch
for Vegas. Yeah,
Vegas.
Yeah. Well, they lost them all as soon as Stone went out. They pretty much never won a game. Yeah. I mean, and he's scheduled to be back sometime after the All-Star break. I understand. We'll see. It's a back problem, right? I mean, so much like if Tanev doesn't come back, right? I think Flames are in huge heap of shit as well. I
mean, the real Markstrom's got
frankly,
up too, but
this is the Oilers' opportunity right now. I don't think the I don't get it, Dash. I mean, we'll disagree until the end of the season, and one of us will say, "See, I told you so."
Me.
Yeah, well, you'd say it anyway. You'd find some time you'd find the most like.
If not about that, I'll find it about something else.
The rarest clip in the pod and say, "See, I told you I was right." I just don't. The Flames are exactly where I thought they'd be, fighting for a playoff spot after a number of guys had career years and got some new guys in, and Sutter's wearing thin. We'll see. I mean, they've proven to be a streaky team over the past, even pre-Sutter. They're a streaky team. So we'll see what happens. But my guess, if I had to guess, Seattle, Vegas, and Edmonton would be somewhere in the mix in the top 3. In Vegas only if Stone isn't there, and if it's not Vegas, I think it'll be LA. But Vegas definitely, like, I can't believe how much Stone changes that lineup. I mean, if you're we got Jeff, I don't know if he's still tuning in, but if you're a Buffalo Sabres fan, I mean, you got to be laughing at Eichel right now, right? Like, there's got to be a little bit of joy in knowing that this guy isn't able to get it done with a team like Vegas. They've got decent defense. They've got they should have, like, their top 6 is decent, like should be enough to win most games. To be 2-6-2 over that stretch, I mean, goaltending might be a bit of a challenge when you're relying on Thompson to be your number one guy. I mean, that's always been a little bit hopeful, but it worked for a time. I don't know what Stone, like, is it the leadership Stone brings, what it is, but he certainly, the success and failure of this team is largely dependent on his existence in the lineup.
Imagine if we didn't have McDavid and Draisaitl and Evander Kane was our best player. That's what's happening to Vegas. You take a guy like that out of the lineup that scores all your goals and wins all your fights and is all your hits and is the leader.
Yeah, but Eichel should be that. Eichel should be, isn't he supposed to be the guy? Isn't Marchessault, like, supposed to be the guy?
Broke his
Carlson.
neck, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, now that you say that, there's a decent amount of talent in Vegas. It just doesn't have that real high end, like Eichel's nowhere close to McDavid or Dry. Like,
Dirsa, don't you really think that the issue is Vegas is that they fired 3 coaches in the offseason?
That's the Oilers. I mean, the Oilers yeah. Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Michael.
Yes,
back
thank
to
you.
the future, yes.
Anyway, I don't get Vegas. I don't get how one player could have such a profound effect on the team. Clearly he's not getting paid enough, and Jack Eichel's getting paid too much. So how old is like Mark Stone's not? He's not a kid anymore. He's 30 years old. I don't get it. I'd love to. I'm really curious, Dash, like where this Flames thing ends up. Who's going to be right? I mean, we're going to find out, come the end of the season. Markstrom's obviously not been maybe worth the $6 million to date that they've hoped. He's just been too inconsistent. Vladar, though, for $750 a crack.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the Flames seem to have a lot of success finding decent backup goalies or guys that can play, backup minutes, and maybe that's more to do with the strength on the back end than it is and
Probably.
The systems that they play. But Vladar, could easily be the starter in Calgary by the end of the season.
I think there's some that think he should be now.
All right, guys, we're getting close to the end of the hour. A lot of you have commented on the YouTube and across the different platforms. Thank you for tuning in tonight. I just want to plug to the Heavy Hockey Showdown. Mike Dirsa is wearing one of our jerseys from past events. So it was formerly called the Oilerslive Cup. And so I assume everybody that's tuned in right now has heard of it. Or if you haven't, you probably haven't been listening, which is probably possible too. The Oilerslive Cup was a game that we did every year for charity. It's going to continue on as the Heavy Hockey Showdown. We've got I think 8 player spots only left to fill out 2 teams. And then Dirsa and I think by this weekend are going to do a draft those teams. It's all in support of charity, the Sexual Assault Center of Edmonton, which deals, just check them out. It's SACE, S-A-C-E, and sace.ca. So if you check out their website, there's lots of information on there and the different services they provide. Police and court support, counseling, youth counseling, workshops, group counseling, you name it. It's all there. Great organization that's been around since the 70s. I believe the 70s that when Edmonton, sadly, was called at some point the sexual assault capital of Canada, and I'm sure that hopefully that's changing. Hopefully, organizations like this can lend a hand and make some change. But they're certainly doing good work and meaningful work. And in a time when we're dealing with some of the shit that we hear about Hockey Canada and some of this other stuff, this is all very, very, very relevant. Check out on Twitter at Oilerslive. Starting tomorrow, will be 30 days until March 4th, until the game, until the Heavy Hockey Showdown. And I'll put at least one piece of information about what sexual assault means, or what's out there. I'd just like to do 30 days of awareness prior to our event, and so that people can get the word out. Anyway, all of that to say, it is a It is a terrific cause, and if you do anything, check out over the next little while. I'll put a donation. We're going to have a donation page set up probably by tomorrow for people to go and donate. We need silent auction items for our after party on March 4th. We need a couple more players if you want to come and skate, and we just need your support. So all of those things, support us. It's for a good cause. It is absolutely zero profit taken from this. Once the expenses are paid, every single dollar and penny goes to the Sexual Assault Center, and we've done our absolute best to keep the expenses down to almost a bare minimum, next to nothing. So that's great. And we've already got some really special silent auction items. Dash was great enough to get us a Draisaitl signed jersey for the silent auction. So that's pretty exciting. So pretty excited about that.
We're good buddies.
Yeah. Yeah. Gave Leon a call. Anyway,
he waited in line to see me. It was nice.
That's right. This is it is fantastic. And you know what? All of that, I'm talking pretty seriously about it because I believe in the cause. But all of that, and it is a super fun, like just a fun game, right? And any chance I get to beat Dirsa on the ice is just makes for a ton of fun. So I hold the Adam Zakuski trophy up high, and that's the name of the cup that we win. And you know what? Just feels good. Feels good to get those winning goals and be on the ice. And yeah. Jay says, do we need referees for the game? Well, Brett.
We need a capable one.
Yeah, Brett is going to referee. We could use one more, preferably somebody with good eyesight. So we'll get that. Yeah, Jay, we'd love to get a hand there. I'm sure. Just reach out to me. You know how to reach out to me. Thanks for listening. All right. So that's all I've got to say. Check out heavyhockey.com. I'm going to pass the mic off to Mike Dirsa, and then we'll finish it off with Dash tonight. I know Mike probably had a speech made up, but I'm sure Dash also had a speech made up. So there we go. Dirsa, final words.
Yeah. Oilers are off until I think February 7th against Detroit. It's a 5:30 game, and they go on a little bit of an Eastern swing after the All-Star break when they get back. Looking forward to kind of the stretch drive, and March the 4th. If you're not doing anything and you want to come play some hockey with us clowns, you're more than welcome to do that, or come and heckle us. We appreciate it. Come hang out in the dressing room and tell a few lies. That's cool too. Thanks for having me on, Michael. And if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe to the Heavy Hockey Network, and check out some articles on heavyhockey.com. Good night.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Dirsa. And then we're going to go to Dash here for the final word. I just want to say one thing as well before I let Dash have the final word. A little shout out to the Halifax Mooseheads organization. They're creating a record this year. They've gone, I want to say it's now 21 games without losing in regulation. And they're currently on an 11-game point scoring streak. The last time they had a run like this, they won the Memorial Cup. There was a guy, he's not such a bad hockey player, called Nathan McKinnon, playing for the Mooseheads that year. They've got the top two scorers in the queue playing there this year. A guy by the name of Jordan Dumais, who's outstanding. He's a Columbus Blue Jackets prospect who signed an entry level this year. And then they've got the first rounder, LaRue, who is a Nashville Predators prospect, and he's been outstanding since he got back from injury. So this is a team that, if you're following the CHL at all, I think they're ranked number 4 this week, but they're a team to watch for sure, as are the Quebec Ramparts in the queue. So if you're into these, into junior hockey, that's a couple teams to watch from the queue. And that's my QMJHL report. Off to you, Dash, for the last word. Putting everybody else on mute. Have a good one. Thanks. You're up, Dash.
Well, it's a decent segue. I actually had something else planned for the last word, but I think I'll save it for another show. You guys talked about the heavy hockey showdown that's coming. Dirsa will be selecting one team, and Mr. Hebert will be selecting the other team. And as you talk about Quebec, Michael, I would just like to thank you for allowing me to use this platform here at the end of your show, with nothing but our great heavy hockey audience listening, to declare myself ineligible for Team Dirsa. And, this is a Quebec and Eric Lindros kind of type situation. I'm not embarrassed about it at all. But like Lindros refused to play for Quebec, I will refuse to play for Team Dirsa. And let's just say that if you enjoy listening to us bicker in a podcast, you'll enjoy us bickering on opposite hockey teams. And that's about it. So looking forward to that, and hope the draft, goes my way. Good night, everybody.